folks that are up here, want to welcome you to a session where we're going to talk about closing the mobile revenue gap. For those folks in the room that may not be familiar with it, a team of folks in the Magento ecosystem, partners, agencies, system integrators, merchants, plus amazing technology providers have all gotten together to form a working group. And what problem are we solving? I don't know, can we close it? A little bit loud. To solve a very simple problem that is plaguing many of the folks in the industry. It's nothing new, but amazing facts. Mobile continues to increase. The penetration of smartphone across the world continues to increase. The time on site, the amount of users on both sides above 50%. In some of the areas where PayPal operates above 70% for mobile usage. All the facts and figures are growing except for one thing that isn't keeping pace, which is the growth of mobile revenue. That conversion rate on mobile, in some cases, is a third of what we see on desktop. So over the last year, a group of folks have gotten together to hopefully solve that problem. It feels strange to be, I want to be closer to you.
You can sit here.
But these folks up here are going to talk to you about some of the data that we've seen over the past year of experimentation, specifically on mobile, but we also track a lot more. So without further ado, I'm going to be the moderator. I'll talk about this, but the most important people are here. Anna, Ben, Muliati, and Brent. Let's get to know them a little bit better. So Anna, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, you picked the good casual picture.
It's a great shot.
Thank you.
It's a great
Can
shot.
you guys hear me? Yes? No? Okay.
Yeah.
My name's
do
Anna.
we need mics?
Do we
Can
need
everybody
mics?
hear? Good.
Okay, cool. My name's Anna Wessel. I'm the digital project manager at Catbird. We are a demi-fine jewelry retail store. We have 3 brick and mortar locations, and we have a very prosperous Magento 2 e-commerce site.
Awesome. Ben?
Ben Verdi-Chapman, VP of Marketing and Product at High Conversion. There we go. We're an optimization platform, and we're a little bit different from other folks on the market. We're really all about insights and data and how that can kind of be a competitive advantage for merchants and SIs. And we're also one of the founding partners of the community that we're going to talk about today. So yeah, very excited to be here. Originally British, hence the accent. I'll just get that out of the way. Moved to America about 5 years ago. Very happy to be here.
Awesome. Muliati.
Hey, I'm Muliati from iCube. I'm coming all the way from Jakarta, Indonesia, all the way to see Rob. I'm just kidding. But I'm happy to be here. I mean, we are running an agency there in Indonesia, working with retails. But also, more importantly, we're also having a Meet Magento Indonesia. So if you try to find an excuse flying there, I mean, we have it every year. So
I'm going to get there. When's the next one? Is it next?
it's always on August. It's
August.
like the first week of August.
Okay. I'm going to get there. Brent?
My name is Brent Peterson. I'm with Magento, and we are a solution integrator. We have offices in Minneapolis, which is in the middle of the country, if anybody wants to know where it is. We're in Mexico City and in India, and we also put on a Meet Magento event called Meet Magento India, and this year's in Mumbai.
All good. Thank you, Sam. I understand. Yeah, we're all good. So, let's talk. So we said it at the outset. Mobile revenue gap continues to outpace. The mobile revenue gap continues to outpace all other metrics around mobile. And to help us understand, so when we're talking about the mobile revenue gap, this is something that you live and breathe every day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For mobile, we see lots of returning loyal customers converting, but we're not seeing new users convert. We have a ton of new users hitting the mobile site through our social channels, Facebook, Instagram, of course. And it really should be crushing it, and we're actually at less than half of the conversion rate that we are on desktop.
Yeah, and you're part of the experimentation. You
Yeah.
guys have been experimenting
We're
for the
trying,
last 6 months, roughly? Last 6
Yeah,
months?
mhm.
Yeah, that's great. And so, Ben, it takes a community to do this. I mean, PayPal, we have a lot of data. Folks at Shipper HQ are part of the initiative. They get lots of data. You individually as agencies see it. But it really takes a community because no one person, no one organization has access to all the data, right?
Yeah, and that's really the power of the community is we can all come together and help each other. And these experiments that we will get to later, they may not work for everybody in the same way. So whilst there's some kind of best practices that we can apply, it really is specific depending on what type of merchant, what type of industry, their volume, all that sort of stuff. Also, things like seasonality kind of play a part.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. So I think this next slide after this, it talks a little bit about that seasonality, but Muliadi, when we're talking about metrics that we're following through this, so all the rest of the slides are going to talk about the revenue increases. Help me understand what this RPV number is here. It's not something that I was aware of before we started the initiative.
Yeah, I think we're also learning through the initiative. I mean, but it's something new that we learned. I mean, also most of our merchants know. I mean, so it's actually try to measure not only just like conversion rate or average order value, but this is kind of the net effect of the both of them. So it's basically the total revenue earned during this period of experiment compared to the total visits of the people that is actually doing the experiments.
Yeah, and so Brent, you can optimize for average order value, you can optimize for conversion rate, but often that has a negative impact for something like very important, which is revenue, right?
Yeah, and I think some of the experiments that we've seen, some of the obvious things that you would think would work don't work, and then some of the simplest things, and I'm going to go right onto the little lock symbol on your checkout button, make incredible results.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that we've also learned in this last year or so that we've been part of this is if you don't measure and you don't experiment and you don't track this data, you're never going to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so everybody at this point, let's get to the data, let's get to the data, let's get to the data, let's get to the findings. Very important stuff that we're going to be sharing with you, but I think we have to set it at the outset. Hey Sam, the little clicker thing's not working all that well. At the outset, there's 120 different experiments. I think it's actually, Ben, I think we're at 133 as of the last call that we had. 133 different experiments that merchants, agencies can pull out of the box as a part of the initiative. And out of those, we're seeing absolutely fascinating findings. But now today, we're in a position, because we've been doing this for a year, we can talk about, as Brent mentioned, and Muliadi mentioned, and Ben mentioned, the seasonality of these experiments. So Ben, help us understand what we're looking at here. It's really, we're talking psychology here, right?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of gets to the kind of deeper insights, right? So there's kind of certain shopper behaviors that everybody in the room exhibits during the holiday season. You know, we kind of go a little bit bonkers. So we tend to sort of, we have our list, there's kind of impulse purchases, there's a sense of, are we going to miss out on the discounts, all that type of stuff. So it really changes how people are shopping. And what does that mean for merchants? Well, it's how they interact with their sites. So you really need to kind of bear that in mind and it's not just about, understanding that. It's also how can you test to understand what works in that kind of psychology. So again, there is no one size fits all. But with these deeper insights, you can start to figure out where to kind of focus in on and hopefully make some, place some good bets on how you can optimize your site.
And I think we said in the last session, we're 85 days from the yellow, right? Is that what we're?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's starting to ramp up, people are starting to kind of get itchy feet and, get into that mindset.
Awesome. So let's talk about the data. So this is an experiment we talked a little bit about in the last session, but there's a huge swing when we're talking about this coupon collapse. So, and I'm going to have you talk just a little bit about what this experiment actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the control, you're seeing an open coupon code field, and for the experiment, you're seeing a collapsed coupon code field. For us in our brand, we wanted customers that come in armed with a coupon code to know where to put it and continue down the checkout funnel, right? But for customers who are coming into checkout that don't have a coupon, we didn't want them to see the sad, empty field that you feel like you need to fill in.
Yeah.
And if you don't fill it in, you feel like you're missing out on something, right? So
Is the psychology, I know what I do when I see the coupon code on any brand site. The first thing I do is open up a new browser window and immediately search Google for the coupon code.
yeah,
Right?
coupon
Does everybody-
cabin,
yeah,
all that
uh-huh.
stuff. So actually for us, we're really promotion adverse brand. So we do birthday codes, and that's pretty much it. So if you're going to look for a code, you have to wait for your birthday.
Yeah.
And people don't lie. They really wait for their actual birthday. They send us pictures of their ID.
Really?
Yeah. But it actually worked really well for us. And right now on our checkout, we have a collapsed coupon code section.
So you standardized on a collapse.
Correct.
Wow. I'm gonna physically go back there and click the button. So Ben, huge disparity when we're talking about this. We've been running this experiment across many different brands for the last year. Help us. There's a lot going on in this slide. I think you built it, but it's beautiful. I'm not saying anything against you. But help me understand what we're looking at. So we have the non-holiday versus holidays, and then a lot of data that we're tracking on this slide.
Yes, I mean, simplified, this kind of illustrates that, it supports the concept of the change in behavior, right? So during the holidays, this experiment performed, an order of magnitude better than it did outside of the holiday. So again, that supports the concept of the change in behavior throughout the year, depending on what sort of merchant you are, what sort of thing you're selling, blah, blah, blah. You really have to test to understand this. You can have an educated guess, you can use your instinct, but until you have it in the field, you're really not going to kind of get the numbers that you need to make good decisions. So this supports that. And the coupon collapse may not work as well the rest of the year, but it could work just as well the rest of the year. It really depends on the merchant. But this is what the numbers say.
Yeah, from a global perspective, Moriarty, help us understand. So this is something that you've implemented in a couple of different spots, right? So help us understand, is the psychology the same when we're talking about cross-border or
Well, I mean, I think it's from the psychological, it's almost the same, but I think it's more like what the form of the business is. I mean, if you run a business that really rely on a coupon code, obviously you don't want to hide the coupon code because then people want to be able to find it easily and put there. I mean, that's obvious. But I mean, if you're running like we work with like one of the clients actually, it's like cosmetic in Indonesia. So I mean, they don't really have too much of coupon code. I mean, even during the regular, because they rely on more like a loyal customers. They know the product is already buy. So the coupon code has actually become a distraction. So then in that case, actually, it's worked really well to actually hide the coupon code.
Yeah, that's great. And Brent, from you, I know you've tested this a little bit as well. 14% increase during the holidays. That's nothing to sneeze about, right?
No, I mean it's a very good uplift, and I guess one more caveat is the holidays are different in every country. So Indonesia might have different holidays. Mexico certainly has different holidays, and India has a completely different time period when they get super busy.
They don't standardize on American holidays.
Yeah, we're trying.
Awesome. So
I'm joking that.
you're doing. I was too. So simplified header. We talked about this in other sessions, and Anna, we've talked about this quite a bit. We want to remove distractions. Every instance that we've seen, we have seen a pretty dramatic increase by just simplifying the entire checkout experience. Can you help us understand what we're seeing in this experiment?
Yeah, so I think everybody can relate that holiday shopping is a frenzied experience. My anxiety is through the roof shopping for holiday gifts. So I think it's super important when the customer is further into their journey to simplify their experience, right? You want to remove all distractions, so they're focusing on that add to cart button, they're focusing on that checkout button. You want your Aunt Nancy to be able to get those heart earrings for her niece and move on and check that off the list.
And Ben, so we saw, again, huge distribution or huge disparity between non-holiday and holiday. Help us understand what we're seeing here.
Yeah, again, similar to the coupon collapse, you've got the uptick in RPV during the holidays. So, these are things that, as we go into this holiday season in the US, or any holiday season, depending on your geo, these are things to really consider. They do have a significant impact, and the numbers don't lie. I mean, this one's a little bit more interesting because it also has an uptick outside of the holiday as well. So obviously removing that distraction is a good thing, period for the UX.
Yeah, and Muliadi, I'm seeing, so we track desktop, we track every sort of different context and all of the different metrics there. But I love seeing that the desktop is improved in this. I think that's, we always talk about this as a mobile optimization, mobile revenue gap,
Sure.
but we see a lot of great data that's coming from the desktop as well, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of our experiments. We actually want to see every single type of the devices that are being used. We don't want to left out the
Right.
desktop part.
Right. And Brent, I want to have you walk us through this next one here. So, auto cart update. It's fairly simple in a notion here, but help us understand. So, what's happening for the psychology and what's the actual technology that we're leveraging here?
I am not super familiar with
Oh,
this
no,
one.
that's okay. So I'll start, and then you can talk about the psychology. So,
And I can't read the really small print.
Who built this slide? Oh, Rob did. So the change in this one is very simple, and the psychology is very, very interesting, and I would love to talk a little bit more about it. So in the standard checkout model, when you increment or increase the number of a single product in checkout, you have to click the update cart button. What we did in this experiment, the fantastic folks at High Conversion built an experiment that simply auto updates the cart when you increment the amount. So if you increase the amount of a single product, it auto updates the cart, and we saw some pretty dramatic results this year on phone. For folks that increase the amount on mobile, very dramatic results, right, Anna?
Yes.
All right, so it's, I know what you're doing now. I just wanted to make sure. So yes, as soon as you leave that field, you've
Yeah.
changed the number.
Yeah.
It's going to change the cart for you without having to do an extra button.
Yeah.
So on your mobile phone, it makes perfect. I mean, this experiment makes great sense. That why you would do that. And
Yeah.
in fact, why not do it on the desktop all the time?
Absolutely. And so Ben, on this one, it's the first slide that we're showing the results distribution down below. It's that histogram, fancy algorithms that go into that, but help us understand what this one is showing here.
Specifically the chart at the bottom.
Yeah, the
Okay.
histogram down there.
I'll have a go on that one. Look, I'm new to the company. This is not
It's all
my
good.
strong point. So, but
Muliani's got you.
what we're saying here is that merchants who deployed the experiment had 95% of merchants who deployed the experiment had a success rate. So it was very, very successful. I mean, that's kind of the layman's takeaway.
Yeah, and Muliani, this is a no-brainer, right?
Exactly. It's a clear winner, basically.
Yeah, clear winner. And so I want to show one. I think the next one that we have isn't quite as clear a winner. Oh, that's a fancy. So this is the point in these conversations where the PayPal guy is quiet. But Anna, for a lot of brands, moving a wallet solution like PayPal Express Checkout further up the funnel, the concern for many merchants is it's going to impact average order value. You're going to reduce the opportunities for cross-sell, upsell.
Yeah, totally. So the hypothesis for this was obviously to move PayPal buttons up the customer journey and funnel. So we added PayPal buttons on PDP as well as mini cart. So especially if you're a new user and you land on a PDP page, you see that PayPal button and you're like, oh, I can check out in 3 clicks. I don't have to enter any of my shipping or billing information. It has my credit card info, so I don't need to do any of that in order to check out. So I think that was really compelling for me. But in terms of how it affected average order value or upsells, we didn't see a negative effect on that. So.
Yeah, and the data shows that right here, Ben. Right, across the board, like AOV was in some cases negatively impacted, but fairly small numbers, right?
Yeah, and I think, all of this really, again, just goes back to the idea of you have to be testing all the time to kind of figure out these things. And even if there are negative outcomes, that's still a learn. That's still something that you potentially didn't understand before, which leads you to hopefully make some better decisions with future experiments. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and the important thing here, Muliani, out of the distribution, there were some merchants where this was negative, right? There was a negative outcome.
Yeah, so in this experiment, as you see, there's only about 78% success rate. So it means like out of all the merchants actually testing on experiments, only about 78% experience the success rate, there's a 20% that's not successful. I mean, could be, some theory, on the merchant when we look on the data more, we see some more, like if you're selling some more complex product, let's say you need require configurable or like bundling or doing like a little bit more complex product making, then that's impacting obviously if you're putting PayPal button, then it's not going to work that well.
Yeah. So Brent, the takeaway on this one is at least experiment with wallet solutions.
Yeah, and I think this has to start from the developer up. The developer should also be thinking about this and recommending to his or her project manager, and then they should be telling the client, these are things that we should be doing. I gave this talk as a tech conference, and the developers are just like, why am I looking at this? I just want PHP code. This is something that everybody should be thinking about. They should be measuring and experimenting. Well, last thing about the little PayPal button, it doesn't work where they don't accept PayPal.
Right. Yes.
Really low.
Especially in the news.
Yeah.
So in any initiative like this, I think often the case where folks just talk about the positives, but I think we all agree, and I think it's already been mentioned, it's in some cases even better to know what didn't work. And so we tested every instance of breadcrumbs that you can possibly imagine, and then we tested removing them, and Anna, people love
Breadcrumbs.
breadcrumbs. They absolutely love breadcrumbs.
So I think, every brand wants users to come to their site, run search queries, explore content pages, be scrolling through your category pages, and they get to a product page, maybe it's not what they're expecting, then they want to get back. And if without breadcrumbs, they're rage clicking that back arrow on your browser.
That rage clicking.
Rage
yeah.
clicking.
So the takeaway here, Ben, we have a results distribution here. I want to talk a little bit more about that. But by removing breadcrumbs, there was a pretty significant decrease in RPV, right?
Yeah, kind of, again, the data supports what we just said there. I'm actually kind of a recovering UX designer, so what I used to do in my job for clients was actually observe people trying to use websites. So actually what these experiments help you do is kind of have an eye into how users actually behave versus how you think they're going to behave. So, from a visual point of view, you might want to remove some of the UI. Breadcrumb will kind of be one of the first things to go because it's quite, distracting, apparently. However, you can see here, by doing that, users actually need that path back. So I think it kind of, I kind of eat my hat a little bit. As a former designer, I think I know best, but I don't, so.
Yeah. And so we all think we're really smart. We've been doing this for a long time. Every experiment that you have, that I've identified, they've all been dramatic successes, right?
No. This is just show us like how much we don't know things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Brent, on this one though, we did see some folks that had a positive impact from removing, so I think that's a triple negative when I say it that way, but having no breadcrumbs had a positive impact. And so there's a psychology around that, right?
Yeah, I think average order value was up, especially on your phone, which means, maybe the rage click didn't work, or they're just gonna, I don't see anything, so I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah.
But it also means that maybe they don't have an opportunity to add something else later, or they're not thinking about that, or they don't see where their path goes.
Yeah. And so for those of you in the audience, we tested, as I mentioned, every iteration of breadcrumbs that we could think of. All the data is available at mobileoptimize.org. There's a slide that's coming up in just a little bit, but you can see all the different versions of it. And we put all of the data out there, trying to be as transparent as possible as an initiative. And so speaking of the initiative, so from a merchant perspective, Anna, can you give us, I'm putting you on the spot, can you give us at least an idea of how the initiative has worked for you, and from a company standpoint, has it been a positive?
Yeah, it's definitely been a positive. I think overall, it's really just reset our frame of mind. It's so important to do objective testing. I think when you've been with a brand for a long time and you're working on your brand day in, day out, and you're working on a desktop, you kind of get tunnel vision, right? I always forget to check the mobile version. My developers can probably attest to that, right? So I think participating in this has really opened our eyes for testing and optimization for mobile. And I think in this really fast-changing retail landscape, it's so important to start to put mobile first.
Love it. And so we'll have an opportunity for a couple of questions here. I think we have just 2 minutes left. But if you have questions, absolutely, this is a perfect time to ask those questions. More of the data available at mobileoptimize.org. We've got an amazing set of panelists here. Who has the first question? Quentin, did I see you raise your hand? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I would like to know how do you choose what to actually, what to check, what to refine, what to test. That's the most interesting because we as an agency, we usually give an advice, but then so many things to test.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that's fantastic. So, Anna, from your side, I know you work with an amazing agency. An amazing agent. You're here in the audience. I know you work with an amazing agency. Can you help us understand, so what's that relationship look like, and how do you choose from the experiments that are available? There's 130 of them that are available right now.
Yeah, for high conversion experiments, we sort of looked at overall where we needed to improve, and then sort of boil that down, and also with the help of our project manager at High Conversion, sort of focus in on what changes that we could do that is high impact. It also depends on the time of year. Like right now we're really working on mobile PDP because it's Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. And Muliati, from your side, so when you're working with your customers, how do you, you always have a roadmap. Where does experimentation come in, and how do you choose some of the experiments that you put in place?
Sure. I think High Conversion really do a great job. I mean, with all the experiments that they have now, they actually classified of what's the end goal of all of each experiments, what you try to achieve. Let's say you wanted to increase the conversion rate, and they kind of have a list of the stuff that you might want to consider to do. So by looking at the kind of, inside High Conversion also, we can do like a funnel, and you can see like where's all the dropout. So with the customer, we're actually looking at that funnel, and then we can try to see, okay, which part that seems like it's an easy fix or something that we kind of like feel like we want to fix first, and then basically going through that and mapping with all the high conversion recommendations. And we try to select the experiment that we think that makes sense, and we want to try whether the theory is right or not. And obviously, that's the key of high conversion, really to test that theory to find the results.
Is that helpful? Yeah, good. Other questions? Please.
Okay, so my question would be, what is the thing that customers are more mistaken about? So, for example, customer come to you to make an analysis or whatever, and then you give them some kind of analysis or they should change it. They are like, oh, this really? I never saw this coming. So what is the thing that they are the most mistaken about? That they think that that is converting, but it's actually not converting, and they should change.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Brett, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I think most customers don't think at all about it, especially on the
Merchant
mobile
customers,
side.
right?
Merchant customers, right. I think that they need to be educated, and like we're launching new sites now in emerging markets where desktop is maybe half of the users and mobile is 90% of the users. So if we're not educating those people from day one and getting them to start thinking about how their mobile is going to work on checkout, without measuring it, nobody's ever going to know. So it has to start with education up front. There's a lot of merchants are thinking about it, but it's not on the top of their radar. They just want to make sales. So we need to educate them on this part.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I want to add, I think like you said, like not everything works for everybody. I think that's the kind of the key mistake that we have, right? I mean, we feel like, okay, this is the best practice we learned. We read it somewhere in an article, it's about this. But it doesn't necessarily really work for you until you actually test it and actually see the data really whether it's worked for you. I think that's kind of the kind of key important that we learn.
Yeah, and I think I'll take that a little bit, and I know we're just about out of time, Sam. I think when we started this initiative a year ago, what we thought is 6 months in, we'll have a few hundred merchants, and we'd have a set of global best practices. We just know now that's just absolutely impossible because every merchant is completely different, right, Ben?
Correct.
Well, amazing. I think we have time for just one more question, if there's one in the room.
I can
Please, yeah, go ahead.
How do you actually know when, if you run two different cases, how do you know which one works? Simultaneously.
Yeah.
Or do you run one by one and wait for results?
So,
How do you execute?
I mean, find me afterwards and I'll go into the real machinery, but
Yeah.
at high level, our technology works differently from typical A/B testing. So we're actually running multiple tests at the same time. We're upplaying the ones that are trending positive and downplaying the ones that don't work. So you don't have to wait until the end of the experiment to get the results. You can actually see it throughout.
It's fascinating. It's really cool to see. We're out of time. Really appreciate everybody joining us today. Let's give these folks a hand. Great content.